Okay, so I'm trying to set the mood for the start of the video and show like a meme, blast of the past meme from 2022. Google's just giving me pure Reddit gold right now. Like I can't find a single actual good meme from 2022. Let's just start out the video with a clip from Ruben Sim's newest video.
Dude, like half the people quoting me are calling me gay. They're calling me a
The year was 2022. Queen Elizabeth just died. Doors by L Splash was created, and there I was, little 12-year-old Brandon the Goose sitting in his room putting decals on parts in Roblox Studio. Hi guys, as most of you know, my name is Brandon the Goose, or Brandon Tigoose on Roblox because some random kid took my name years ago. You may also know me as Brandon Boxes Stuff, because that was my original Roblox username in 2020, the best year.
Guys, let's do the In My Feelings challenge, right?
As we all know, Roblox is a platform for users of all races, religions, ethnicities, and sexual orientations to power their imagination and truly expand their creativity with wonderful, talent-filled video games. Ever since my age was in the single digits, I've always been interested in all kinds of game development and coding, and that interest only peaked when I found a free, easy-to-use game engine on a platform that I played all the time, Roblox Studio. Of course, with my intellect at the time, I had not a clue in the world on how to get anything scripting related working, so I did the next best thing. Slapped some images onto unanchored parts in the workspace alongside some toolbox script assets, and bada bing bada boom, game created. I really had no idea what I wanted to do with this game when I started, and more or less just wanted to make a shitpost test for the start of my game development journey. But going in, I knew I wouldn't want to make a very serious game, and instead more of a satirical one. So when coming up with a name, I took inspiration from, at the time, one of my most played games, Geometry Dash. Oh, nigga. Specifically, this level by Kernel, Conical Depression. This level is more or less a parody shitpost on Geometry Dash levels, so I thought this would be the perfect thing to name my game. And I was right, because it ended up amassing almost 10,000 visits. But of course, the success came with its fair share of people who hated my guts. The most potent was a Roblox bypasser / hacker who threatened to backdoor my game, which of course is impossible without some malicious code already being in it. And also was the sole reason why my future uploads of the game got terminated. But he deleted his Discord and Roblox account shortly after, so, you know, nothing ever happens. Back to the chronological timeline of Conical. Doomsday struck on August 9th of that same year, 2022. You see, back then, I used to dabble into the wonderful world of Roblox bypassing.
Has shirts on, or decals / shirts on Roblox. So what you're gonna need to do is get paid.net, open the 512 by 512. Okay. Now what you're gonna do.
Now for some reason, I would upload a majority of these assets on my main accounts, Brandon Boxes Stuff, in quick succession. Which, if you couldn't tell, Roblox was very unhappy with.
On my mother, dispel this ignorant display of mock classical tomfoolery away from my...
Now of course you can imagine how distraught I was losing everything I had on my main accounts. But I came back a few weeks later on a different account. I actually didn't go by anything related to Brandon the Goose. Instead I picked a completely different name based on this random guy's FNF mod, and I got terminated again. But this time, for the game itself. I really wonder why. Then finally, I settled on my current account, Brandon Tigoose. I've actually published 2 versions of Conical on this account, and both of them have been, of course, terminated. Now, as I'm looking back, I will say that most of the bans I received were justified. However, some of them were straight up targeted spam reports. For example, with Sleeper, who lied to Roblox about saying my game had CP in it, and that I was exploiting children at the ripe age of 13. But nonetheless, I think it's time to make a change. I'm going to be remaking this game completely family-friendly, PG-13 clean, and with the rest of the intended content I was going to add in the update before it was most recently taken down in January of this year. So without further ado, let's start off with the major things that I definitely had to remove. But first, compulsory call to action. If you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you scroll down and press that nice little red button. Pretty sure YouTube added like a little visual effect whenever the subtitles pick up that you said the word subscribe or like. I don't know, maybe it'll help my deaf viewers or something. As you can tell, there is a gigantic difference between 2022 and 2025 Conical Depression. so there's obviously a gigantic amount of content that I've added over the years. But I have to admit that some of the things that I've added are quite questionable. First off, let's just get this out of the way. Escape Epstein Island obby. This was a 20 level obby I made where the player is supposed to be escaping from Epstein Island, but I very clearly lost the plot after a couple levels in. Now, I'm not going to spend too long on this one since I don't think the YouTube advertisers are going to be too fond of it, especially considering the current events going on in politics right now. But of course, I wasn't just going to throw away a 20 level obby I spent like 4 months on, so instead I rebranded it to Escape Einstein Island obby. It replaced all previous mentions of Epstein with Einstein. I also TOSified every level that had some maybe questionable content, even the original soundtrack that I made that plays in the background on loop.
Would you rather know your future and find out you live an amazing life, except at some point you end up sending to a minor and then end up having with that minor?
When I was making this game back in prime 2023, I was a very, very big FNF fan. And when playing Roblox games such as Funky Friday and Friday Night Boxing, I was inspired to make my own little FNF thing. Of course, not knowing anything about how to program an input system, I did the second best thing. Again, make a catalog of songs that I did not have the permission to use, in which 95% of which were breaking TOS in some way, shape, or form. So I unfortunately removed a large majority of the songs from this GUI, but kept in a few that were not breaking TOS, such as my own soundtracks, Chipsel, and FNF Shuttleman. I'm sure Top 10 Awesome is gonna mind me using some of his songs.
Merry Christmas!
I also used to have a section for, I'm not joking, Pack God songs.
Little bitches talking on my name, I can't fall with that. Heard that weak ass shit you made on me, I heard enough.
Which somehow got past Roblox moderation without me even tampering with the audio. It's actually kind of crazy that these Roblox bypassers sell courses and like leak methods and discords and they do is like teach you how to bypass different assets when really it's just as easy as uploading assets in bulk until one of them gets accepted by a bot. But again, I no longer do this, so I cannot verify if this still works. But from when I used it in my game, it definitely works. The third main thing that got removed was the plethora of bypass decals and audios that were scattered around the map, most of which have been either replaced, censored, or rarely censored.
Hello honey, I just wanted to take my time to tell you how much you mean to me. Your beautiful smile always brings sunshine to my day. I want to spend the rest of my days with—
Other than that, there were just a few minor adjustments to character dialogue, such as with Jamal and this thing. I think the hardest part was making sure no remnant of any kind of bypass content was left in the game. It was made easier with Roblox's built-in find and replace feature, but there were some things that I just straight up forgot I added, like Jamal saying this word, or naughty words on GUIs that can't be found with the find and replace method. I actually had to remove one of the main gameplay elements, which was if you typed I love men in the Roblox chat, it would give you 1 ban, which actually gets you warned because of Roblox's newly added live chat filter. So it has instead been replaced with I love masculine people. And I've also added multiple other ways for you to obtain this game's currency, bans. And of course, these 2 wonderful statues have been in Paint 3D and Blender, which had to be tweaked ever so slightly.
Hey, what's up, baby?
Boy, if you don't get your dirty bum ass on.
Dirty, bitch, I'm fresh out the shower. You got me fucked up.
Well, I can't tell with that nappy ass shit on your head.
And by made in Blender, I mean I exported the OBJ file from Roblox Studio, put it into Blender, exported it right back out, dragged it back into Roblox Studio so that it had no textures, then just applied the sandstone texture. With that out of the way, let's move on to the wonderful, newly added additions.
I'm getting second-hand embarrassment. Sunogo no Kashima.
One of my biggest inspirations for game development ever was the Stanley Parable, and it was only fueled with the Ultra Deluxe release in 2022. I also noticed that a majority of Roblox games heavily underutilize the 2D GUI components provided to you by Roblox, albeit very limited. You need to manually compare frames' absolute size and position in order to do basic vertical and horizontal collision, but I digress. When the top games such as Grow Garden and Steal a Baddie use GUIs as a means to show their shitty dev products and gambling game passes, new devs are not inspired to do anything creative with them. But I think I did a pretty good job of what I came up with. Meet John and Darnell, Conical's first two-dimensional characters. John is a submissive femboy cat, fox, and Darnell is 4 stock static images looped every couple frames. Darnell is in charge of your settings and storing all of your data. He greets you every time you boot up the game, with a prompt to redo his prompts, or just takes you straight to them if it's your first time joining. I was contemplating adding a do not ask me again button, but then I thought, what if they wanted to redo the prompts, and had to go all the way to settings, leave the game, and then rejoin? And it's just too much. So instead, I just made him pick from a random list of things to say when he asks you to do the prompts and when you say no. John, on the other hand, was more or so inspired by Conical Depression, specifically this part. John was actually one of my favorite things to code, and one of my favorite things to add to the game overall. I knew I wanted to give him a low quality design, and I really liked making him glide away on his little one-textured surfboard. As for the questions, John actually remembers whatever you type in as your name here, and calls you by it whenever you start up the game again. Also, completing his questionnaire will reward you with some bands and some XP, because for some reason I want to shoehorn in an XP system. I will say that if I'm really proud of anything I've done in this game, it's my use of 2D. While I did make a few of my own models and coded everything myself, for some reason I just felt more accomplished doing something I know I haven't seen anyone else doing on the platform really. On top of these two guys, the rest of the GUI that I made for this game was very good in my opinion. First off, we have the stats menu, where you can view your badges and equip them, your player info, and your overall stats in-game. I made a basic settings, shop, and donation GUI, because premium payouts aren't enough. And I also designated a button to player selected emote whenever it is pressed. There used to be a button dedicated to the update log, but I thought that was really just a waste of space, so I just moved it to the title screen. There are a few more UI things, but I will talk about them later because they have to do more with the 3D aspects of the game. Speaking of 3D aspects, let's finally get to the juicy 3-dimensional map that I revamped.
You have to do something, and you have to do it now.
Who's that?
First off, you can see that I've added a wonderful cozy little spawn area with wonderful decals, models, and credits. And I've also turned the brightness level heavily down and replaced the Among Us skybox with a toolbox with the Starry Night skybox. And over here we have the snowmen, which are actually the sole reason the game got moderated one time, which is why they're now apologizing. You're probably wondering what this big covered off staircase for the hazard warning signs is about. And to that I say, just keep those wonders to yourself, because I unfortunately will not share the details of that at this current moment.
Hey, that shirt fire. Where you get it, bro?
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Ask again. Yeah, you look good in it, bro. But where'd you get it? Come on, Dada.
Hey, man, appreciate it. Appreciate it.
But when you join the game, you can just pull out your hacks client and set your camera C-frame manually to find out what it's meant to be. Over here, we have a quote-unquote gambling slot machine, where you spin to get an award for absolutely no consequence. Besides giving up your precious time, of course. There are 6 rewards that you can get. 25 bands, a secret room, a Brian Griffin jar, a Murray from Impractical Joker's jump scare, a Twink Furry badge, and finally an animation. I added this originally to parody Souls RNG, but that game's long dead now because the next big thing came across that takes its place. Around the map, you may notice a few unique characters that you were able to speak to, but of course their dialogue has been altered ever so slightly. But I still wanted to add another character that would act as a kind of mentor for the player, and also would have a voice sound effect like Undertale.
I mean, look, I read today about a 10-year-old girl with Down syndrome who was taken from her mother and put in a cage. I read about did you say
Meet Garter, not the one from Penny and Stocking, the one from Conical Depression. His voice sound is sampled from a shortened plus sound effect, pitched downwards and slightly sped up. I didn't mention this before, but each proximity prompt is custom made, and this is the code I use for it. I know. I could make this a lot less lines with just using one function that takes in some basic arguments, but I'm lazy, man. I made Darnell's prompts and dialogue a different font from the rest to make him stand out as more of an important character to the story. I also implemented some colored markup rich text that do not show up the same way in scripts as they do in the game, but make the talking sound effect prolonged for a little longer than it's meant to. Darnell will have more dialogue and story purpose later on when the story is fully developed and I've actually fully finished it. But for now, I just wanted to introduce him to get the player familiarized. Right next to Garter is one of my other favorite things I added, Conical Wear. This is an obvious parody of WarioWare, in which there is multiple mini-games you can play through, and if you get a score above or equal to 3, you will get a random reward. I wanted to add a few more games to this, but I was nearing the end of development, so I just added a little more variety to the games that already were there. The first game is a 2D shoot 'em up, where 3 random Roblox avatars will spawn in random positions on your screen. You will have to shoot all of them in 5 seconds. The second game is somewhat of a Undertale-inspired escaping game, where if you touch these walls, you'll be sent back to the start. And if you move while these eyes are open, you will fail and have to play another game. The being sent back to the start thing was not intentional, by the way. I only added it because I was having trouble doing two-sided 2D collisions and stopping movement for only one key depending on which side the player was on. I do plan to add some more games to this in the future updates and maybe some more rewards, but I'm decently pleased with how it turned out for now. Now over here we have Cleo_Leo, who acts as a tour guide helping the player find their footing in the game, and has also helped me test for this game. And the value is what on the clients I'm going to say that the player is on. So if the value I send back is PC, like the text PC, then I'm going to set your controls, like the Roblox controls, to purely keyboard and mouse, because I don't want you to be able to use the... There's also a few physical locations for the UIs that you can access at the top left of the screen. I didn't make one for the settings because, well, Darnell only exists in 2-dimensional space. There's also a PvP section with a wonderful catalog of 2 weapons in which 2 players can go hand in hand by spam clicking and aiming at each other until someone's HP hits 0. I definitely plan to update this later on, but for now it works. Next is the Conical Depression Museum. This was more of an archive of different things I added in old Conical, however some of it obviously had to be censored. There's also a dev commentary that has been reworked like 5 times that you can listen to in exchange for a badge. And you're gonna get the badge in about a couple seconds, just give it a little moment. Don't worry, I'm not gonna keep you on the brim for... I can say that. I can say that. Now with all of these wonderful things out of the way, I want to talk about one of the biggest things in this game that I spent way too long working on, and that took 2 playtesting sessions to fix one problem, and the data store script looks like this. The Conical Depression Hotel. Let's just get right into it. First, let's talk about the main game hotel entrance. So the outside of this building has a 24/7 scrolling ad in the front, with every floor besides the first being completely empty. But you know what they say, never judge a building's integrity by its exterior. So on the interior, there's a nice little waiting area / lobby, with some nice chairs, a lovely little receptionist, 2 elevators, an employees only room, and a lovely little OST to go along with it. Let's start off with the arguably easiest thing for me to implement, the employees only / ordering ready bets. Now when walking up to this door, you will be prompted to enter. However, since you are definitely not an employee, you will instead be meted with,
order ready. I don't even know what I want, bro. Excuse me, do y'all sell crab legs? No. Boy, if you don't, what about lamb chop? Sir, the menu is really... I'm in the wrong spot, then never mind. Let me get a,
But you might be wondering how I got this to work. Well, I was going to use Roblox's built-in video feature, however that only supports up to 60 seconds of video and costs 2,000 Robux per upload with no refunds for moderation. So I went with the much safer route. I uploaded the audio separately, and I took the video, made it into a GIF, turned that GIF into a 1024 by 1024 sprite sheet, then used the sprite sheet conversion script that manipulates the image rect, offset, and size to give off the illusion that it's actually moving. Obviously, due to the stupendous amount of frames in this video, the quality is about the same as the amount of effort the Forsaken dev team put into their new update because they were too focused on adding an anti-backshot script, but I think that adds to the overall mood of the game. Since I put so much effort into this, I of course had to tie it to a badge to ensure my player base would be inclined to find it. Next up, we have Jasmine, the receptionist that allows you to purchase your hotel room and that you can quote-unquote rizz up.
La prochaine fois que t'as blondé, on va au cinéma?
Non! Pas de cinéma!
Je suis Lokin.
Je suis dans la tranche.
There's also a scrapped arcade game here that I want to implement sooner, but then I realized I wanted to implement it into something a little bigger, and then, you know. Now for the elevators. Basically how these work is that there is one elevator for single player, and one elevator for multiplayer that can hold up to 5 people. The way it's coded is that whenever you walk up to the elevator and touch it, the game will check to see if you own a hotel room, and if you do, it will add you to a table of players alongside changing other things on your screen. such as making this UI pop up. And then after the timer counts down, it will take it to the custom conical loading screen I made, accompanied by this wonderful sound.
You should be so proud of yourself, love.
In which you and or the players you are with will be teleported to the hotel, where all the magic happens. Roblox's built-in teleport service provides a method to send teleport information to the place you are being teleported to. And I use this to tell the hotel which player owns the room in the case of multiple players. Now when you join, a lot of different things are happening, but I'll explain that later, as it only really matters when you actually have stuff in the room. When you join, you are greeted with another wondrous original soundtrack made by yours truly, alongside a blank, empty hotel room. Now you can do two things. Number one, you can click on the config button to customize your room and add a wonderful amount of decorations. Or you can open this wooden door and leave the hotel just to find out you're stranded on an isolated island in the middle of space. If you click this copyrighted star in the corner, you can go back to the main isolated island in the middle of space. There's some basic customizable things like the room color, material, and toggling the OST I made on or off. But of course, I've mentioned everything besides the main entree of content this hotel has to provide: the decorations. Now before the remake, there was only two decorations: a Nevergoon picture frame and a sofa that would make you play a not very family friendly animation. So with this update, not only did I TOSify both of these items, I also added two brand new items: a TV and a Foxy plush. Now the code for placing an object is pretty simple. I just shoot a raycast from the player's mouse in 2D space to the point in 3-dimensional space to see what part it would have been hovering over if it did exist. And depending on what item you're trying to place, it will or will not allow you to place it there. While you cannot place items by the door frame and soft lock yourself, even if you did somehow find a way to soft lock yourself, it would not be a soft lock, as you can simply just click on any object that you have placed and press the trash can, and gone like the wind. Now my main inspiration for making this kind of section was the game The Storage. And what really fascinated me about it was not that you could buy and place items around your storage unit, but instead that the game saved and could load your exact storage unit layout at any given unit in the entire game. Now if you don't understand coding at all, I'll do my best to explain this in as simplest terms as I can. So every 3-dimensional instance in Roblox has a value called the C-frame, which holds its current position and orientation in relation to the workspace, which is the main 3D space in the game. The way Roblox games save your data is by either using HTTP service or data store service. Data store service is more commonly used and less vulnerable, as it is meant to hold player data on the Roblox servers. The way I have my data store set up is that whenever you join the game, the server sends a data store request to Roblox with your user ID to fetch all of your data and load it. And if, for example, it was your first time joining, it would just be set to the regular value. A boolean, often used in Lua and other coding languages, is basically just a true or false value, and it is the most common data stored value, as it can be used to tell if the player has a certain shop item or has a certain setting turned on or off. However, the next most commonly used data type in data stores is the string. The string can hold a lot of different things, but is intended to be used as a form of text storage. This is what I use to store your custom tags you buy in the shop, alongside the color you input for them. Strings allow you to hold a lot of different information in just one key, which is the identifier that allows Roblox to know which player and value you want to get or set. Now I thought, great, I could just use this system to store every decoration in the player's room and then load it back when they join, which I did end up doing, just not as simply as I thought. You see, a C-frame is one of the values that you cannot assign to a data store, alongside color values, for example. So in order for me to store all of these objects, I would have to do something called deserializing. Now in simplest terms, I will have to turn and convert this complex C-frame value into something simpler and easier for Roblox's data store system to handle, a string. Now doing this in practice may seem easy. You could just type toString at the end of the C-frame, right? Except there is no toC-frame function. So even when I did convert the C-frame into a readable string for Roblox, in order to even utilize this string when you join back, I have to convert it back into a C-frame in order to set the object's position. Now this is the code I used for it, which, again, in simplest terms, what I'm doing is, I am first retrieving the decorations data store, which is a table of every item that you place in your room. Then I'm filtering through every item name to make sure there are no numbers. Then I just use the string to C-frame function to split each individual value. Then I just clone the item from replicated storage and add it into the room. The first two values are the name of the object and then the C-frame position value. Then this just loops for every object you have in this data store. Then when you leave the game, it's basically the same thing, but this time I clear the data store so that if you were to delete any objects, it will reflect as such. And then I just make a request to save all of the data. Now another important thing to how this works is that when you get teleported in the elevator, I actually send over, using this method, who the owner of the hotel room is. And that's decided by whoever gets on the elevator first. And when you load in, it receives this value from the server and then waits for that player to load in. Then it can load their data specifically and not anyone else's. Much like everything else in this game, this section is due for an update in the future, but again, I am very proud with the technicalities of it and how I got it functioning for now. Now, as I mentioned before, there was a serious problem with this part of the game, and it didn't have anything to do with the data storing, or the teleporting, or even placing the items. Instead, it had to do with this single function, .touchEnded. You see, before I got people to test this game, I was only playing with my avatar, which I never really changed at all. So I would never find out that there was a game-breaking bug that was caused by this touch-ended event firing when, for example, one of your accessories left the room, or even when you're playing a custom idle animation. So after many days of experimenting, I finally found a solution to fix this problem and any similar problems using this function in other parts of the game. You see, there's a huge non-collidable invisible part inside of your hotel room, and when you are inside of it, you will be able to view the room config UI, and when you're not, it will be hidden. However, because this function is false firing, it would either completely disappear randomly, or start flickering on and off. So in order to fix this, I completely removed this touch-ended event, and instead replaced it with my own little collision function, in which I manually compare the distance between the player's humanoid root part and the center of the invisible hotel room part. And if the distance is greater than a certain number, I can conclude that you are no longer inside of it. And now with that game-breaking bug out of the way, the hotel should be fully operational. The final thing about the hotel is the actual building for it. I made the entire thing myself, and to me, I think this is one of the best 3D things I've ever made for the game. Now for future ideas for this, I definitely want the ability for the player to pick their own room number instead of being stuck with 203. Also for the player to be able to load and deload their room on the go. I also may experiment with some collaborative editing features, but that may take a little while since I'm not sure how I'd separate the personal and other players' data store. Because allowing another person to tamper with another person's data can be very dangerous. But yeah, that about does it for the hotel and overall the update itself. So I think we could finally move on to the final chapter and some of the scrapped/delayed ideas. One of the biggest things that had to be delayed for this game was story mode. Now obviously the game itself has an underlying story going on, so you may ask what this story mode is going to be. Well, it was going to be more of a stronger Stanley Parable parody, in which the player goes through a lot of different tasks and fourth wall breaks. But in order to make sure that this parody was the best it could possibly be, I had to delay it for the next update. I also plan to work on this sealed off area as well, as I have a really cool idea for it. And spoiler alert, it has something to do with the story. There was one last idea I had where the Brian Griffin jar was going to be covered in substances, and you had to bring it to this water fountain over here to clean it off. I think you can see why this idea was scrapped. But yeah, all of that aside, that basically does it for my remake of Conical Depression. I went ahead and linked the game in the description if you wanted to play it, and you can join my lovely Discord or leave a comment to tell me what you liked or did not like about it. This game really means a lot to me, as it's been really fun working on it and being able to expand my coding knowledge purely from doing this nonsense on Roblox. Trust me, I'm always excited for any kinds of ways I can improve or do better, so if you have any suggestions or complaints, please do not hesitate. My ego will not be shattered. And I hope after watching this video, it has maybe slightly inspired you to make your own things and branch out your creativity even in something limited like Roblox. And even if it hasn't, I just hope you found this video entertaining in the slightest. And maybe it has helped you find some peace listening to me talk for 20 minutes. But as always, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.